From the garage that sparked a global self-care movement, welcome to the Human Garage Experience, a podcast where we have unfiltered conversations on self-healing, consciousness, and different ways of optimizing your life with fascinating individuals changing the status quo and also the world out there. I'm your host, Aisha Rodrigue, and I'm honored to have you here. Like for the people that maybe are not familiar with your job yet, like with everything you do and are, how would you describe that?
Well, I like to say that if I have to describe myself in just few words, I am an orgasm facilitator. But I am also a conscious intimacy coach. I am an energetic lovemaking teacher. I am passionate about bringing awareness and intentionality and sacredness to lovemaking. And I am passionate about empowering women to reclaim their own pleasure and see orgasms as not just a wish, but something really that heals and empowers. And yeah, the same with couples. So I always say that I am on a mission here. I'm on a mission to build a pleasure reclamation movement. I want to ignite an erotic revolution and build a community of erotically empowered women and thriving couples.
I love that. Can I be in two movements at the same time? Can I be in ours and in yours?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we're doing right now.
Yes, for sure.
Supporting each other, weaving it all in, and it's all connected anyway.
And you have a very like a background in banking, right? Like you went from serious corporate to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. You know what? You share this story a lot because many women resonate with that. And well, I particularly grew up in Poland. It was communism, and my parents didn't have things that we tend to take for granted. They could not travel abroad. They were earning an equivalent of $15 a month, and the passports were taken away, and they couldn't just go to the West, etc., etc. Right? So when I was making a decision, what am I going to do in life? Being 17 years old, right, deciding what am I going to study. I didn't have a passion back then, but logical move was, okay, what am I going to choose so that I can earn my money, being independent, and travel the world. That was like my dream. And finance and banking um was just starting in Poland. It was booming. So I was like, okay, that seems like international big banks and all the big five and all the things sounded very glamorous. So I decided to go for that. And then I continue on this path for almost 15 years.
And why going into the world of like sensuality, sexuality, orgasms, and all of this out of all of the modalities also?
Yeah, and that is a great question because I never had it actually planned. So for these 15 years, first of all, I was so in my masculine, in all the corporate world, just doing the things that logically were seemed like a great idea. And I was also so in my mind. And none of those decisions to be in this business or any day-to-day activities were not led by my heart or by my womb, but by my pussy. They were all led by logic and the ego. And it just drained me. And, for many years, there are so many distractions that we are offered from sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
All of them.
So I've done all of that and it worked for a while, but then it stopped working. And then this lack of fulfillment and lack of being nourished from within really got me. And I wasn't really depressed, but it was a version of a midlife crisis, and I really lost my mojo. And that was the moment that I decided. All my friends started to do ayahuasca. It was actually to the 2012.
Oh my God.
And my friends say, you have to come to the end of the world, to Riviera Maya. There is, you're going to do the plant medicine. You're going to find all the answers. So I booked my flight. And guess what? Funny, because the ayahuasca started to really work before I even took it. And my company forgot to extend my work visa. So they wanted me to cancel the trip. I said no, and they had to fire me, and they paid me for a year. I wanted to leave anyway. So here I was on a beautiful, journey. And then I just started my own exploration. And among many other things, I ended up in an orgasmic energy activation workshop where I had my first full body energy orgasm.
Mm.
And that was, a form of awakening.
Yeah.
And from there on, I just started to be curious about different things. Maybe before I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna go to like luxury fashion and luxury brands, or maybe I'm gonna like produce my own shoes. And all of a sudden I was like, no, I actually am not interested in any of that. And once I experienced that full body energy orgasm, I was so excited that I would just talk to anyone about it within 5 minutes. Is it in a restaurant or in line in Starbucks or on a plane? And guess what? People were really curious and
Yeah.
they wanted to know more. And this is how it all started. Yeah.
Mine journey in all of this, or the healing, started like that also, with a
Yeah.
full body energetic
Yeah.
orgasm with Sasha Cobra. I've never
Me
heard
too. Me, Sasha Cobra.
So we did a podcast with her like last month when we were at
Nice.
Colibri
Yeah.
in Greece.
Yeah.
And like I always say, like, you took my corporate virginity and like put me into this path of because everybody tells you that healing is scary, that it has to be painful.
Yeah.
And that you have to cry and process
And suffer the
it's
same
like,
way you suffered when you were traumatized in the first place. Yes.
exactly. And for me, that never makes sense. I was like, but how will that feel safe? Like, why would I want to go there?
Yeah.
There must be another way. There must be another way. And that's how I end up in a retreat. My first retreat ever with her.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And once you fall in love with this or that world and you start creating your own work and your own techniques, because I have been following your work and like the Ladder to Bliss.
Ladder to Bliss is my program that was my first program, my most popular program, my baby.
And like all of the tips and like the
breast gasmic activations. Yes.
Exactly. So what will you say to somebody that is completely disconnected from their body?
Yeah.
They're learning about safety. Let's say they have that part covered already, but they're still numb. What will be little things that they can start bringing into their life?
Yeah. So, I kind of see this work really is on so many layers, not just physical, right? The physical numbness usually is a defense mechanism, right? So I like to address all those layers in parallel: emotional, mental, energetic, and physical, right? So as you said, with the mental, creating safety and understanding a little bit, you don't, although you don't have to understand, but looking into possibly where those defense mechanisms are coming from, right? And putting it into context and starting to be curious about it rather than self-critical, being curious and finding the parts of you, right? The parts of you that are numb, and what do they need? What are they asking for? Often for slowing down, for safety, etc. Then on emotional level, I like to work with the emotional constipation that we have, and really inviting safe rituals, but also just not just that, but also starting celebrating sadness and grief and anger. And I take my clients through grief gasms and anger gasms and cry gasms. So the energy also starts to move, right? There's more aliveness. And then what often also happens, that numbness as a protection mechanism, once we start to create the safety, once we start to befriend the numbness, once we start to listen and locate it in the body, right? Often before pleasure, there actually will be pain, right? So also allowing the anger, the resentment, the frustration, and the disappointment and all those uncomfortable emotions, and then allowing them to move through you and having those cathartic emotional releases, even orgasmic often. And then slowly there starts to be maybe pain, right? Or discomfort. And then sitting with that and being prepared to hold it and receive it and celebrate it and love it. And slowly from there, we're going to move to feeling a little bit more and a little bit more. And then I have a whole series of exercises, and we start to go more into the physical realms.
Yeah.
But what's important is that this is not just physical, right? And we really need to look at all those layers. And that's often when people, I always laugh because the videos that go most viral on social media are like, massage technique 1, 2, 3, or positions. People love positions.
Oh, yeah.
And all that surface level stuff, and they always want to learn, what techniques to stroke and what technique for this and that. I'm like, I don't really believe in just teaching those techniques alone. That's why you will not find a lingam massage course standalone in my programs. I believe in like a holistic whole approach. So what that I'm going to teach you 3 strokes if you feel disgust around your body, if you don't feel safe, if you hate men, if you are afraid or whatever, that if you go into a freeze response, so what, right? So that's why I don't really do these little short courses and techniques, although it probably will make me a lot of money. I really want to take people through a deep dive, so it's like a complete transformation. So
and energy can be felt.
Absolutely.
And when you can do all of the strokes, the techniques, the magic with whatever part of your body you feel like using, or gymnastics with it.
Exactly.
I mean, coming from a contortionist from Cirque du Soleil and feel nothing.
Exactly.
Either you or them, or him or her, if you're not present, because energy can't be fake.
Exactly.
Everything else can. The noise, the orgasm can be fake.
And listen, this is exactly what I was doing for a big part of my life, especially my New York Wall Street 3 years, where I would pick up men in clubs, and then I would often be tipsy or drunk. And then I was not experiencing nourishing intimacy, very rarely any kind of orgasm, and I was totally jumping around. Actually, so many men always told me I was great in bed because I was jumping around. I was doing the 69 and 94 and 27 and all these things, but I really didn't feel it. Was all performance, right?
Yeah, it was like fast food.
Yeah,
like fast food sex.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like anything. And how does pleasure and self-pleasure and all of this connection become that like portal into healing, or into not being afraid, like you said, like of the sadness and the rage? And how does that start becoming that portal for people?
So pleasure and sexual energy, erotic energy is energy, right? And I think when you really look at all the ancient belief systems, they were all about it.
All of them. Thank you so much for watching this episode with us today. I'm so glad that you're part of this movement, but also about this learning experience. One great thing that you can do to now incorporate and embody all of these learnings is start doing some fascial maneuvers to allow all of this information to move into your body. So if you're not there yet, run and get into the 28-day live reset, and we will see you there.
Yeah, we can use this sexual energy for different things. We can use it to procreate and then focus on the lower energy centers, lower chakras, more kind of primal reproductive aspect of sexuality. But we as human beings, apart from dolphins, I think, are the only species on this planet that actually have sex all year long, all life long.
Yeah.
So there must be something more to this than just reproduction, right? All the other animals have just the periods for reproduction. So what are we gonna do with this opportunity, right? And that's where we start to tap into this most powerful energy that we really have access to, right? The energy that allows for the survival of our species.
Yep.
And we start to become aware of that energy. That's the first step, right? And we start to feel it. We start to intentionally cultivate it. We start to be, again, more intentional about what we actually want to use it for. And then once we start moving this energy upwards, right, from the sex center to the heart center and then to the third eye. So it's not just sex center, but love center. and kind of spiritual center,
Yeah.
then we can use this energy really for feeling love, for feeling the oneness, for reaching higher states of awareness, where really like the stir, right? Selflessness, timelessness, egolessness, and richness, all those things that maybe when you gonna try to go there via the avenue of meditation can take you, 10, 20 years. If you're gonna try to go there via the avenue of medicinal plants, amazing, but probably not enough for 8 billion
Yep.
people on this planet. So let's use sexuality and that sexual energy, right? So I think, a beautiful example is what we both have experienced,
Mhm.
right? That energetic full body orgasm, when that energy for the first time shoots up, and when that Shakti unites with the Shiva awareness, and the
Yeah.
awareness expanded. I don't know how you would describe it, but for me, like, I knew I touched something
100%.
different.
Yeah.
Like, I touched God, I touched consciousness, I touched universe. And not only in this moment, but I really came out different from this experience. Like, that's where I started simple things. I started recycling. I started to look at how am I can make an impact on this planet. I started to, slowly stop any drugs. Later on, I stopped alcohol. Like, there were really tangible changes and
Yeah.
shifts in my life.
100%. Yeah, for me, I think my body start feeling for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
coming also from like the corporate world and
Mm-hmm.
sales and all of this, and and in hotels that were swinger hotels
Mm-hmm.
and all of that, where sex is a transaction
Mm-hmm.
and is fast food with many people.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the sales aspect of that.
Yeah.
To come out and for the first time see my body or experience it as a temple,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, okay, now I cannot allow this type of food or these perfumes or these things toxic, or like
Yeah.
everything changed in the way I interacted with the world and my inner world and my inner talk
Mm-hmm.
also since that moment, because it was the first time I felt part of the whole,
Mm-hmm. Beautifully
or like that
said.
I didn't feel
Yeah.
alone, even though the experience was alone.
Totally.
No,
Yeah.
I felt like so connected to everything, and it lasted for months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that state and like that juiciness. I was like, I want to feel like that every day of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Or why am I waking up for
Exactly.
if it's not to feel alive?
Mm-hmm. So I think, this our own story is, the best example of how it can be not just even a healing modality, because I'm not necessarily sure, I am very grateful to say that I had quite an, relatively easy childhood. I didn't have any abuse, etc., etc. I did have a dad with a borderline personality disorder. That was probably the most challenging part. But I used to also play small, and I was never really fully stepping into my own potential. I was never owning my magic in this world. And from that moment on, there's something that really turned on in me. And I started to dream bigger, and I started to own my amazingness, and I started to go for big things in life. So that was also empowering. Like, healing can be one thing, but empowerment is another one. And I think, especially for us women,
Yeah.
because we are really not supposed to be so much in our heads and, operate from logic. And I tried to fit into that for 15 years,
Yeah.
and it didn't take me anywhere. While from that moment on, I really started to follow my intuition. Like, that, the fact that I became, and conscious sexuality intimacy coach, I never planned that. It was really like following my guts, accepting the invitations, and trusting and flowing with it, and just observing what feels good, what excites me. Completely different way of operating. And my creativity, another another thing that just really got hugely
Mhm.
impacted.
And in the journey, like in your experience,
Hmm.
the last couple of years, by example, the tendencies of relationships have shifted a lot.
Mhm.
No, everything was about like free spirit before, no commitments, then like polyamorous and all of these things.
I never went through that, but
And
okay.
now, but like the trends,
Mhm.
kind of like
Correct.
society, you
Yeah.
see start coming up. And now it feels that like it's all about, again, like conscious partnerships, deep intimacy, and like this crave that couples now are looking for,
Mhm.
not breaking up, not switching partners, but to be, how do we go deeper?
Mhm.
How do we actually find that divine love, or that, I know the feeling in the
Yeah.
body, but I don't know the
Yeah.
words to it,
Yeah.
but like that depth that kind of like cracks you open and allow
Mhm.
things to happen. And that's something that you are teaching couples how to relate.
Mhm.
Where does that start? Like, does it start as a couple? Does it start as one? Like,
Yeah.
how do you?
So I tell you how this usually starts. Women are definitely much more open to doing this work,
Mhm.
right? And so most of my followers and most of the women, like even part of Mind Valley, etc., this is mostly women, right? So my first entry point is women coming to me, and I love it because often either they're single. So what I love about it is it's you don't have to wait for a partner to start exploring this work. You can be single, and in fact, to me, it always actually starts with yourself.
Mhm.
Or so then we start working with self pleasure because most women, even if they have partners who want to give them pleasure, I hear this over and over again. My partner is asking me, what do I want? And I quite frankly don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want. So, or, if I ask for it, I don't know how to ask for it. And if I finally ask for it, I feel there's a resistance in even receiving it, right? So there's so many layers to this. So to me, it's most of the times it starts with women exploring their own body and reclaiming their own pleasure and activating their own orgasmic spots with themselves. And then many women that are single start to call in conscious partners or conscious lovers, which is so beautiful. And then other women who are in long term partnerships, what usually happens is that the partners start to notice the change.
Mhm.
And that's where I always like to say that we want to seduce our partners, our male partners, into doing this work rather than force or pressure, because that usually doesn't work. If they're resistant, that's totally fine. Have compassion. This is the society we created, right? So there are a lot of men who are resistant. It's so funny because for my couples course, I always do the interviews myself because it's always the ladies who either worked with me or follow me on Instagram, and now they're dragging their husbands into this conversation, right? So I want to be present there. But again, often those men already start to see the difference, start to see their partners being more free, more playful. They start to see them be initiating more or be more orgasmic. And they're like, oh, I like what I'm seeing. I want a piece of that. I
Mhm.
want more of that. So then I often have women bring their partners and we do the couples work. Sometimes couples come straight to me, and that's also possible. But most of the times, I usually prefer women working with me first.
How have you experienced for yourself self pleasure as a healing modality?
Mm. Self pleasure, it just has so many flavors and it's like infinite possibilities,
Mhm.
and it's really what it's like Burning Man. you know it's like a big book, and you can write all kind of stories, and you can have 100 people go, and each of them will report a completely different
Yeah.
experience, right? Some were raving nonstop and some were meditating
Mhm.
12 hours a day. So with the self pleasure as well, right? It can take you so many directions. It can be a form of release. It can be a form of meditation. It can be a form of creativity downloads. I call it erotic downloads. I use this for that. But when it comes to healing, I think for me, what comes first is going through grief gasms and setgasms. So especially last 2 years, I literally have been in the death portal a little bit over. And first, my mom was passing, and that took over 6 months. Very shortly after she has passed, my dad was diagnosed with a 4-stage cancer. So that took a year and a half, and he passed a month ago. And number one modality that I have been using to really process grief is self-pleasure. And there is something so powerful in that embodied practice, because again, first I allow all the emotions to reach its full potential, and any emotion fully felt can be blissful, and then crying, and then releasing, and then it's also like the heart blasts open. And these were actually the moments that I could meet my mom first and my dad in the fear of death, something that I think, it's very hard for other people to relate to. And in those moments I like felt their fear, and then I would cry, I would have a gratitude gasm. And just what's so beautiful that the energy just takes you places and you surrender to it, and it's such a healing and cathartic and a powerful experience. So that's, for example, how I have been using self-pleasure as a healing modality.
And for somebody that is completely new in self-pleasure, and they hear this and they might be like,
what the hell?
How can you feel grief and like how can they come together? Or
exactly.
I started self-pleasure like as a healing modality because of a betrayal that I was going through. And everybody was like, but they're the opposite energy. Like that's the energy that it happened. Like how can that? So
how
can you
be? Yes.
explain a little bit on that? Thank you so much for being part of this episode and for being part of this incredible podcast. We really do them with a lot of heart, and we love to have incredible guests and conversations for you. If this is something that inspires you and you want to learn more and you want to be part of this incredible movement on how to help yourself and how to heal your body, but also how to help others, go and check out our new coaching program if you want to bring this into your toolbox and start helping other people to feel great with their bodies.
So first of all, it's a little bit like the pain and pleasure, right? That are two sides of the same coin. Everything is like duality. The light doesn't exist without darkness, and so on, right? So the same here. I think we have in our society separated the two. Why is that? Because the pleasure, we mainly witness it in the context of pornography, where it's performance. And there, that performance needs to be joyful, happy, kind of turned on, perfected, staged. And if you then think of context of that, that wouldn't work if you probably bring grief or sadness, right? But when you move away from performance and being in your head, and you move into your body and you start to feel, then you start to feel everything. And I always like to give an example of a hairband, right? If you want to stretch your capacity to feel pleasure, ecstasy, turn on, bliss, you have to stretch that elastic. You have to stretch that hairband. And it's not like you can just stretch it on the right side and not stretch it on the left side. The whole thing stretches. So your capacity to feel pleasure and bliss and ecstasy is kind of directly proportional to your capacity to hold pain and grief and anger. So that's number one thing, right? Number two, again, the same as this pain and pleasure situation, where pain can be so pleasurable and can release endorphins. The same with sadness and anger. So it's not about, I want to, this is part of my work, that I want to shift the paradigm for women. Oh, I am gonna self-pleasure or be erotic once I feel okay, once the stress at work finishes, once the kids are out of school, once I lost 10 kilos, and there is all this list of things, then I will feel pleasure. But it's the other way around. Pleasure can be used to create the right time. And then it translates into relationships where people are, oh, when the kids are going to be sleeping, when we're not going to be tired, when the war finishes, when the economy is stressful, when this, when that, and then they never are intimate.
Yeah.
No, you show up stressed, tired, maybe even disconnected. You create a beautiful, safe container and you start to bring sensuality and you start moving from the head into your body, into sensations. And then as a response, you open up to intimacy, right? So if you start to really look at it from a point of view of the body and feeling, then it all starts to make sense. It's just the mind and the ego for which these are the opposite things.
Yeah.
But in the body, it's feeling. And again, any emotion fully felt can be ecstatic.
Yeah, 100%. And does self-pleasure always include, because everybody thinks self-pleasure equals, I don't know the code word so we don't get censored,
Big
but
O,
like
big O.
That's big
the
O,
code.
or that you have to go and play there and
Down
that's it. Like
Yeah.
that
Yes.
is the
Yes.
equation.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Important. Okay, exactly. So we're going to do everything, guys, just the easiest way to say it, completely the other way around. Instead of rushing, you're going to take your time. Instead of going for particular outcome, which is normally big O, climax, we are going to actually take it off the table. I like to tell people who are starting, take that, climatic point off the table and give yourself an hour and see what happens. So instead of chasing a moment that is slightly ahead of you, you're going to be in the present moment with moment-to-moment sensations. Instead of focusing on the area down there, you're going to engage your entire body. Instead of trying to rush it and force it and tense, you're going to do the exactly opposite. You're going to slow down, you're going to breathe and relax. And you are going to have more awareness. So I recommend moving away from fantasy and mind stimulation. And not that it's bad, but we want to bring something else. We are already so much in our minds. So again, exploring, touch the places you've never touched before. People think it's only about the down there area. We have so many other orgasmic erogenous zones, from ears and neck and chest, etc. Right? So explore the entire body, explore different types of touch, guys. There is, I will teach the course on touch. There is just so many things. You can massage, you can grip, you can press, you can caress, you can scratch, you can pull, you can squeeze. There is just so many different types of touch. So you want to explore on all of those areas. So, at least you have already 15 areas, 10 types of touch for each area. Easily 1 hour here, right? Because people would ask me, what do you do for 1 hour? So it's really a form of body meditation, sensation meditation. Body exploration meets sensation meditation. And it doesn't have to go anywhere specific. And that's where actually taking that explosion off the table, you are going to invite options for the grief gasms and energy big O, full body orgasms, etc., etc. And it's funny because women in my course, Ladder to Bliss, I ask them to put away the vibrators and I ask them to, be very mindful about grasping the climax and move a little bit away from this. And some women at the beginning especially get really upset with me. They get really frustrated and there is some pushback, etc. And then towards the end of the journey, everyone is like, okay, Bibi, now we get it. Now that I started to feel the subtle sensation, now that I can feel the energy, now that I, all these things started to happen, I get it. With this intensity and chasing, short-lived friction pleasure, you shut the door down for those other experiences.
Yeah, for all of the potential.
Yeah. So just see this as a self-love ritual or exploration ritual. And it can be really fun, guys. I know for some people it's like, oh, this sounds really boring and yogic and slow. I put on amazing music. Sometimes I just put on fun lingerie and start with a dance. I literally made love to myself all over the bed, rolling around. I use all the crystal tools, the wands, the eggs. I have given myself the best big O's of my life with myself. So no, it doesn't have to be boring. You can bring different flavors to it. It can start with more sacred and meditative, but then I teach people the erotic spectrum. You can bring a little bit of kinky to this. You can bring a little bit more primal to this. You can, play with your own self pleasure the same way. So, as you can play with lovemaking with a partner, and you don't even have to ask anyone for permission.
It's
So,
always fun.
yeah.
In our world or in our community, we deal a lot with trauma, with healing, and a lot of like abuse.
Mm-hmm.
No, so a lot of times women, they express then when they go through that and they start healing it, the body will express. It will show you where it is stored, especially in our case that we work like with the fascia. And when it starts opening, you feel more. Everything, like before even it touches you, or all of the emotions are going to start emerging. When somebody's in that state and they have lived in that state for 20 years, they're healing their trauma, they're going through it, they're building this courage again. How do they start building the connection to their bodies when they're not yet comfortable to touch themselves? Like, what are like baby steps, in a gentle way for somebody that just haven't been home in a way
And with their body.
with their bodies for 20 years?
Yeah. So my work, for example, I probably around 40% of my female clients have some kind of a history of abuse and trauma. But what I do is, especially because I mainly work with women online. So first of all, my requirement is that they have already worked with someone in person. So they usually have, they usually have done work around trauma, self-regulation, soothing. So they have kind of, tools to self-regulate and at least, bring themselves back to a regulated safe state, right? And then that's why I call my course Ladder to Bliss, because I don't throw people into the deep waters straight away.
Yeah.
I like to start with slowness and sensuality before we even go to sexuality.
Yeah.
Right? So I have this beautiful self-honor practice where we really like go through every part of the body, just rediscovering it, being grateful for it. So at the beginning, it is not really in a context of pleasure. It is more in a context of getting to know your body, appreciating your body, and being attuned to the senses. So more of a sensuality. So it's easier for them to start exploring that because we can introduce it to the nervous system as something else, not necessarily self-pleasure.
Yeah.
So I start with that. And then slowly, I move to the breast activation, right? When there's also a lot of emotions stored. And then it opens the heart, and then there's crygasms and releases. So again, before we actually start stroking down there for pleasure, we do those baby steps. We climb the ladder. So they have already touched the entire body. They already were sensual with themselves. So then slowly, it is easier to start introducing more of a sexual stimulation.
What are the three like biggest transformation that somebody could experience when they start opening up themselves to this energy?
Okay, why don't I give some examples of ladies from my course, for example? Okay, I am going to... let's make it real stories so it's a little bit more fun and tangible for people. Okay, so one of my clients, she was actually grew up in a cult and then somehow, continued because that's what her nervous system knew. And there was some kind of abuse for almost 17 years. And she only had orgasms with vibrators when she found me. And she didn't even have enough money to pay for my course, but she said she has felt such a strong pull that she had enough money to pay for the first installment, and then she was like, I'll somehow figure out the rest. So not only finally she was able to feel safe in her body, she activated her energy, she had all type of big goals, you name it.
Hello, everybody. I'm sure you're enjoying this podcast so much and learning so many things about our guest today. Let's take a moment to just ground that energy and drop into your body and take a couple of deep breaths together. Let's do 3 in through the nose, out through the mouth. In and out. In and out. Now in through your mouth, breathe in and out. In and out. One more, in and out. Now with that new feeling and lots of space in your mind, go back, tune into the podcast, and I see you in the next break.
In every single part of the body, energy, full body, all of them, she threw away the vibrator. She actually, in the manifestation practice that we had, she manifested, she was manifesting money. She manifested a check from an anonymous family donor of $25,000. Then she manifested many more. Then she came to Tulum and stayed in the nicest hotel. And then also used this energy to up-level her business. So, surprisingly, you can really find impact in every area of your life. Another client, 63, when she found me, she was going through a divorce, still hoping somehow after 20 years to get to the husband, unsure. Not only she let go of the husband, she went traveling around the world to amazing places that she dreamed of. She wrote a poetry book that she published and had beautiful results with. She started dating. She called in a conscious tantric lover. She's having the most amazing lovemaking of her life. She says, Bibi, I was 60 plus in the marriage. I was completely dry, thinking it's menopause. I tell you that. I am the wettest I've ever been. Nothing is wrong with me down there. Yeah. And I think they're now 8 months together. And this woman is on the top of her game.
Yeah.
And she's 64 now. Another example, a woman who used to work in fashion and was very critical around her body, did so many plastic surgeries. And when she found me, she was already planning a next surgery. Not only she really, for the first time in her life, fell in love with her body, she did the explants. She stopped doing all the surgeries. She started to feel pleasure, now orgasms that she never had before. She also wrote a book about her story. So many women, I receive all these books. So, these are just some of the examples. Pleasure is only one of them, right? Yeah. Amazing, best ex-life, all kind of types of orgasms and pleasure. And yes, I am passionate about this, but why I'm so passionate about this work is because I see how these women pop like popcorn. I call it, ladies, like you popped, when they pop. And when they quit their jobs, when they leave the toxic relationships, so many of them write books, start to paint. So many women started painting and started to having their first exhibitions and selling their art. So many women left corporate worlds. So many women are just doing big things and going for big projects and feeling empowered. So yeah, these are just some of the stories. I have many more stories. I have endless stories, but yeah.
That is. And what will you say is the biggest mistake that obviously always converts into a lesson and a gift, but that will bring somebody into this?
That why they what the biggest mistake, why they find me?
No, like when somebody starts looking at the type of this type of work and sensuality and sexuality, and they're like, no, like, and they start making all of these judgments in a way,
yes,
without knowing how can we turn that into something that it's a good lesson, that it's educational? Because there's so much taboo about topics.
Yeah, like that. I mean, listen, I think there is a thing of timing also. Because I am also like this sometimes. I am impatient. I want fast results. I'm a generator. I want, and I want it all and I want it now. But even when I look at my own story,
Yeah.
If you're dealing with chronic inflammation, aches, pains in your joints, I use PowerKirk 30. This is a product I take literally everywhere with me. We travel the world all the time, and when you fly, your feet swell, you feel achy and pain in your body in different areas. And I'm not a big believer in using supplements to take responsibility for my entire healing process, but I do use PowerKirk 30 every once in a while when I'm feeling those aches and pains, inflamed, and I just need a little bit of help. So if you've never tried PowerKirk 30, it is the world's strongest anti-inflammatory. One capsule is equivalent to an entire bottle of another product that has curcumin in it. This is a patented product. It is the world's strongest, and I'm super excited to share it with you. You can find the link to PowerKirk 30 in the show notes below.
some people you just need to let them be and allow them. Maybe, it needs to get a little worse for them before it gets better, because the only thing you cannot do is, I always say that you cannot force,
No.
you cannot convince, you cannot manipulate someone into this. It really needs to come from within. I remember that moment. I remembered precisely that moment that I had. It was in Sao Paulo on a rainy Sunday when I looked in the mirror. I'm like, I don't like the person that I'm seeing. And that was that moment that I took a decision. I want to change. I remember that moment. And from that moment on, I all of a sudden started to hear all those, recommendations, books, etc. people were telling me about. And I give it all to me. But before, I wasn't not available for this. So I think, that is important. That sometimes understanding that people have different timelines. And if they're a no for now, they are not ready to receive this information in a way. But they usually come back.
They always do. And for the
So-
people listening and that they're like curious and they're like, oh my God, where do I start?
Where do you start? I mean, you guys, we are living in such a privileged moment in time. Not even 10 years ago, there was access to all this
The
wisdom,
information, yeah.
especially when it comes to sexuality, right? The amount of podcasts and books and courses and Tantra retreats that is available now, it was never available before. So, what an amazing privilege to live in a moment in a history that we are like the first generations that have an opportunity to really change the trajectory of, let's say, sexuality in our family. So, first of all, I want to start with that. So, there are so many options where you can start. Hopefully, we have planted some seeds here, and it really starts to me with planting seeds and with a person willingness to, yes, I'm curious about it. So, asking yourself that question, are you curious about it? And if it's a yes, great. And then podcasts and books are great, but obviously they only going to get you to a certain point, because I always say, information is not transformation.
Yeah.
And it's easy to listen and binge to a million podcasts and things, but at the end of the day, when it comes to sexuality, it's in the body,
It's
and
in
you
the
have
body.
to start practicing.
Yeah.
So I do recommend practicing. And we have given some of you, it will be enough already today, the seeds planted. Put, your playlist for an hour, explore with the entire body, slow down, don't rush to a climax, take it off from the agenda. Breathe, sound, allow yourself to feel fully whatever is present for you in life right now. And then see what calls you to explore further. And again, you don't need to have a partner. And guys, is it like I have so many free practices, free guided practices on my site or on my social media, because I want just people to have a taste of it. Press play and follow along. Or maybe there is a tantra workshop somewhere close by to you. And, that's also nice that you can start going to this type of events, tantra festival, or even conscious festivals like
Yeah.
Colibri that we went, etc. There is now pretty much everywhere the topic of conscious intimacy. And then you can also meet the people who are interested and open to explore that. So
That's going to be their
Yeah.
homework when they listen to these podcasts, is to
Yeah.
go do the stress reset so they
Yeah.
can prepare their
Yeah.
body, reduce the stress, open up the
Yeah.
fascia, and then go explore
Yeah.
for
So
an hour.
what I would love for the listeners to do, and I went through a time that I was just binging so many podcasts and I realized I forgot everything.
Yeah.
If you want to pause this podcast right now and just think of 3 things that you are taking away from this, and at least one thing, ideally 2, that you're going to implement. And what are you going to implement and how? And maybe that means scheduling a 1-hour self pleasure practice this week and putting it in the calendar right now. You can also find so many juicy, beautiful playlists on my Spotify, Planet BB, and that, can really enrich the experience because the music just itself can take you to so many different places. So yeah, I would love for you guys this for this podcast to be something more, just another nice thing that you listened
Yeah.
to.
It's an action and a
Yeah.
commitment of self-love now
Yeah.
that they can practice. Where can people find you?
On Instagram, this is my number one social media outlet, Planet BB. I know it's a funny name, but I got it before I started teaching anything. And so Planet BIBI. And otherwise, my website, energeticlovemaking.com. And yeah, there's tons of free practices, guys. So yeah, just download, press play, follow along, and see where that takes you. And then we happy to join in my online courses. So nowadays, that is even an amazing thing, right? We don't
Yeah.
even have to be in a certain place. You can be in the comfort of your own bedroom and start doing this work. I have clients from all over the world,
Yeah.
and that's also the magic of it. And I know people complain, I don't want to be on the screen, but there are beautiful advantages of that. And when it's a live course and the community is so alive, it can be really beautiful and nourishing.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And if there was one last question,
Oh, please.
what will you wish more people knew about you?
That to get to where I am, it's not just, it's not just fun and hanging out and all the beautiful things that sometimes, people only see on Instagram.
Yeah.
There's all another side. I think a lot of people idealized my life because I had a privilege to live in beautiful places like Tulum, and then go to all these beautiful festivals. And from the outside, it can sometimes look like, oh, I have perfect pleasure, I have a perfect life, I have a perfect business. There's a whole other side to it, and there's a lot of hard work. There is grief. There's grief gasms. There is there is effort. There is commitment. There is devotion, and it didn't just pop from 1 year. There is work, and like with everything, I think there's so many people that want amazing results, and they want amazing relationships and health and be fit and be have money, but there's very few people that are willing to do what it takes to get there. And yeah, I am very committed. I'm very devoted. I'm very disciplined.
And the results prove it,
Yeah.
obviously.
And I'm even a nerd. And that's probably what doesn't come across. And I also have challenges in life, and I go through them like everyone else.
Yeah. In a
Yeah.
more orgasmic way, for sure.
Grief gasmic.
Grief
sometimes.
gasmic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so
Mm.
much. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Now go there, hit the button of follow and subscribe. Send this episode to a friend, to all of the people that you know. And thank you so much for being part of this mission Thank you for allowing us and bringing us to more homes, to more spaces, to inspire more people to heal themselves. See you in the next episode.